A tornado outbreak across southern Oklahoma and North Texas. OU Nightly shows you a view from the sky. A massive drug bust in Oklahoma City. Find out where. And U.S. officials worry about cyber attacks on the United States from Russia. This is OU Nightly. Thanks for joining us for OU Nightly. I'm Tyler DeLuca.
And I'm Olivia Dague. We begin with an up-close look at the damage from a massive tornado outbreak.
OU Nightly's Colton Williams joins us live. Colton, you flew over the damage in southern Oklahoma today. It is a very serious situation down there.
Yeah, that's right, Maddie and Tyler. It is springtime here in Oklahoma, and that really can only mean one thing here in the south and the southern plains. Here you see we had a large complex of storms moving over Oklahoma and Texas yesterday. This was a large system. I'll show you what it looks like right now coming up in just a minute. Right here, I want to draw your attention to a couple things. So the storm is very large, right? Extending from Wichita all the way down to Austin, almost to the Rio Grande River here. But you see one tornado warning here around the Lake Texoma region. That did end up producing a tornado in Kingston, but the remainder of the tornadoes, they remain down in the Austin College Station region. These continue to move on. There was in fact a storm that was tornado warned for over 300 miles yesterday. So certainly a large system that is continuing. It is not slowing down. We have tornado warnings in the deep south now in Mississippi and now even crossing into Alabama. These are tornadoes that are long track causing lots of damage. And so here there were 24 tornado reports. This is preliminary from the Storm Prediction Center. This will go up as we go throughout the next couple of days, but you see we had one tornado here in Oklahoma. That was in Kingston. And again, yeah, this is the view from the sky here. This is a truck with an RV attached to it, flipped on its side, folks. So this was a very large, very powerful tornado that moved through Kingston. The Storm Prediction Center National Weather Service currently rating at an EF2. That does have the potential to go up. And here's some more footage from the ground here. Large structures completely leveled. And so that gives you an idea of the intensity of this thing here, as some sheds and some trucks were even blown over. So, all right, well, it's gloomy out there now. Spring returns soon. I'll tell you about that. We do have a 5-star weekend coming up, and I'll let you in on our next storm chance coming up in just a few minutes.
Thanks, Colton. The Oklahoma County Sheriff's Office announces a multi-million-dollar drug bust near I-35 and I-40. OU Nightly's Zaria Oates just talked to the Sheriff's Department and joins us live from the newsroom with the latest. Zaria.
Olivia, we're talking meth, cocaine, and fentanyl. The Oklahoma County Sheriff's Office made a bust in late February, but just released the photos today. Police say this woman, Jamara Hennings, from Cleveland, Ohio, told officers she was driving to Arizona when she was pulled over for swerving. They say she couldn't tell them why she was on the trip, and Hennings refused to let them search her van. That's when officers called for a K-9 unit, which made a positive hit at the back of the van. Officers discovered 75,000 fentanyl pills, 8 bundles of 23.5 pounds of crystal methamphetamine, and 2.5 pounds of pre-cut cocaine. The street value of the combined drugs is a total to be $3,345,000. I spoke with the public information officer at the sheriff's office, Aaron Brilbeck, and he said, although it doesn't typically take an entire month for information like this to be provided to the public, the size of the drug seized plays a major role in the time period, and the investigation is now closed at the office. That's all for now. Olivia, Tyler.
Thanks, Zaria. Now the latest on Russia's war in Ukraine. Ukrainian forces say they have fought off Russian efforts to occupy the city of Mariupol. Western officials say that many Russian forces are facing serious shortages of fuel, food, and cold weather gear. U.S. intelligence are also warning of potential cyber attacks and that Putin may launch an attack on the United States. American businesses are warned to strengthen their cyber defenses immediately. Millions of refugees continue to leave Ukraine, many now arriving in Romania.
And the first black female Supreme Court justice is beginning her second day of her confirmation hearing today. Brooklyn Sweet has that story and the rest of today's headlines from around the world. Brooklyn.
Today is the second day of the confirmation hearings for new Supreme Court nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson. Many senators from the Judiciary Committee asked Jackson tough questions about her expertise and experience throughout her years as a trial judge. Topics span from her past work with Guantanamo Bay detainees to racism in young Americans. Jackson says a judge is meant to interpret the law, not make the law.
I believe that judges are not policymakers, that we have a constitutional duty to decide only cases and controversies that are presented before us.
She vowed to be an impartial justice on the issue of court packing. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki tested positive for COVID-19 for the second time. The news of the diagnosis came just hours before the departure of President Joe Biden's trip to Brussels and Warsaw. Psaki tested positive last October before another foreign trip. The White House has not commented at this time. Some Disney employees staged walkouts today, urging the company to take a stronger stance against Florida's new Parental Rights and Education bill. This bill would ban the instruction of sexual orientation and gender identity in the classroom before 4th grade. Florida's Senate passed the bill earlier this month, and Governor Ron DeSantis is expected to sign it into law. Disney opposes the bill, posting on Instagram they will not support any legislation that infringes on basic human rights. Disney says it will stand in support with their LGBTQIA+ cast, crew, guests, and fans. And Tyler and Olivia, scientists have discovered a new form of ice that could be seen on water-rich planets outside our solar system.
Thanks. And as the conflict continues in Ukraine, oil prices have risen and Europe debates on what to do. Hear about how the oil price rise next on OU Nightly.
Plus, one community is helping another here in Norman. Find out where a church is feeding hungry students when OU Nightly returns. Hello, welcome back to OU Nightly. Oil prices have risen since it dropped last month. Dacoda McDowell-Wahpekeche has this and more in Money Matters.
Thanks, Tyler. Oil prices have jumped to $112 while Europe debates on whether or not to ban Russian oil. This price dropped to $93.53 last week. The prices have been fluctuating since the United States decided to ban Russian oil. European leaders have been debating on following the U.S.'s decision, and gas prices are dipping in response to oil prices. Last week, the Federal Reserve raised interest rates for the first time since 2018. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell says that the U.S. needs to return to a more neutral monetary policy. This raise is not the last, as 6 more interest rate increases are planned for the year. The Federal Reserve's rates will increase to 2.25%. Washington, D.C. is suing the popular food delivery service Grubhub. D.C. Attorney General Karl Racine is accusing the service of hiding fees and it orders taxes, and that it misleads its customers by listing restaurants on its site without consent. Racine alleges that the service created phone numbers and websites that directed customers to Grubhub rather than the restaurant. He says they also created promotions that misled customers and hurt businesses. Grubhub responded back against the claim, saying that, quote, many of the practices at issue have been discontinued. And if you share a password to Netflix with someone, then you might see an increase in your Netflix price. Olivia, back to you.
Thanks, Dacoda. A local Norman church is feeding students who face food insecurity at the University of Oklahoma. Norman First American United Methodist Church, a predominantly Native American congregation, feeds OU students every Monday evening. Fellowship is what the church calls this event, hosted in the 5 Moons Student Lounge in Copeland Hall in rooms 120 and 121. Fellowship is run by the church and some university staff. They mostly serve Native students, but they are open to everyone on campus.
It's a spiritual, not religious support group, trying to give our Native students an opportunity to gather, to fellowship, and to share a home-cooked meal.
Fellowship started back up after taking a year-long break during the COVID pandemic.
And it's severe weather season here in Tornado Alley. We'll tell you how and where to stay safe when we come back.
And Tyler, after those tornadoes and with all this spring, I was hoping for some warmer weather. Colton, what can we expect for things to warm up?
Yeah, I know it's been cold out there. It's been gloomy today. Winter came back, but it's not here to stay. I'll tell you about our 5-star weekend coming up here in just a few minutes. Welcome back to OU Nightly. Thanks for joining us. I'm Colton Williams. Looking at downtown Oklahoma City after the passage of the storms, we had some colder air push in here. It's quite windy out there. You see it's a gloomy, just kind of a drizzly, dark day out there today. First day of spring was almost a week ago, and now we're sitting here with dark skies. You see the Oklahoma State flag here really just whipping in the wind. It's almost stiff. That's because our winds are currently out of the northwest, 20 to 25. We're currently sitting at 42, but again, very cloudy skies. So storms passed through yesterday. They left behind some pretty gusty northwesterly winds across the metro. Here on the east side, we're seeing gusts 20 to 25. In the metro, 30 to 35. And then in the north and the northwest, we're seeing 40 to even 50 mile-per-hour wind gusts. So a very windy day across Oklahoma today. Winds out of the northwest keeping us feeling cooler than our temperature really is. We're feeling almost like freezing here in Norman. We're sitting here now in the middle of the March, still with wind chills sitting in the lower 30s. A lot of our friends, Ardmore sitting in 40, Lawton at 41. So across the state, it's a chilly afternoon out there today. Those winds, they have prompted some wind advisories. Here in this light brown color, we have wind advisories until 7 o'clock. In the dark brown, we have a high wind warning. The yellow numbers, those were the max wind gusts recorded today. Those really have the chance to go up. We even had a wind gust around 64 miles per hour in northwestern Oklahoma today. And so again, winds are really gusty out there. Certainly keep that in mind. But the passage of yesterday's storm definitely left us plenty of rainfall. Our old record set all the way back in 1991, a little less than 1.25 inches. We smashed that yesterday, sitting at 1.61 inches for the day yesterday. Rain that we very much needed for our already abnormally dry winter. So event total, we saw 2 inches here in Norman, almost 2.5 in Oklahoma City. You see nice band here of well over 1 inch set up here along the I-35 corridor. To the east, we saw 1.5 inches to almost 2 inches. Idabel saw over 2 inches of total rainfall. So our friends in the west, they missed out just a bit, but all in all, we had very, very much needed rainfall. So again, some cloud cover left behind from yesterday's storms. This is now continuing to build in here, even a little bit of drizzle here in northern Oklahoma, but there's that active system moving on. This is a big dynamic system still producing tornadoes in the deep south, and as we go throughout the next several days, that will move away. So there's that storm system that moves out. The temperatures here are on the map, but then also the yellow and the oranges, that's our upper level energy. I'll show you, we have none here as we head into next week. We're above average as high pressure dominates. As we head into the early part of next week now, we're starting to see our next storm chance roll in here. You see we have some upper level energy pull in here. That will bring us our next potential for a storm chance as we go into next week. But now our temperature trend, you see we are on the incline. We're going to be well above average by the time we get to the early part of next week. For tonight, we have temperatures in the 40s. Those will continue to stay in the 40s. Those winds will try to die down just a little bit. We'll have 50s for your highs tomorrow before we're back in the 60s by Thursday, 70s for the weekend, 80s to start next week.
Thanks, Colton. With last night's severe weather and tornado outbreak, spring has officially arrived in Oklahoma. OU Nightly's Peyton Galyean tells us how we can be safe when severe weather strikes.
Severe weather is no stranger to spring in Oklahoma, and as spring begins, many are left wondering where to go and how to get information.
One of the keys to staying safe here in Oklahoma during the springtime is just stay informed. We have the best weather information system anywhere in the country here. When you combine the National Weather Service, when you combine the resources on campus, the OU Emergency Preparedness Office, and the TV stations. The TV stations in Oklahoma City do an incredible job of covering the storms. So really, it's just paying attention.
OU has a large out-of-state student population, meaning some students have never experienced a tornado before. Luckily, on-campus shelter sites are available to them, including those at Couch and Walker Towers. If you can't make it to a secure shelter or don't have one where you live, the best place to go is the lowest level or most interior room of your home.
You have to think about today where you're going to go if a tornado happens. Let's say you or your family live in a mobile home. You don't want to be in that mobile home in a tornado, but you can't wait until the tornado warning is out to make a decision about where you're going to go or to leave the mobile home. You have to do that early because you really won't have time to do it when the tornado warning is issued. You have to be able to respond immediately.
The most important things to keep in your shelter include water, a first aid kit, and any important documents you may need. Peyton Galyean, OU Nightly.
Safe Place Selfie Day is April 6th, and the National Weather Service encourages you to know where your safe place is.
But OU softball has continued to dominate and break some records.
Brigg, what's next for the Sooners?
That's right, guys. Oklahoma softball is headed to a sold-out arena tonight for a top 10 matchup. While softball stays hot, the Sooner women's basketball season came to an end last night. We'll have more on the latest sports updates next. Hello and welcome back to OU Nightly. I'm Brigg Bates and it's time for sports. As the weather warms, that can only mean one thing. Spring football is back. OU Nightly's Ben Thomas has the scoop on the Sooners' new head ball coach.
The Brent Venables era is officially underway as day one of spring practices began today. After weeks of conditioning workouts, the Sooners took the field at Evers Training Center today, getting the chance to see players run through position drills. It was the first chance to see old and new faces, along with Coach Venables and his staff in action. Even though it's day one, this team has already been impressing Coach Venables.
This team has had an amazing attitude. Just incredibly impressed with the mindset and the attitude and the buy-in of our players.
While there's a lot of work to be done on the field, Venables emphasized the off-the-field work his program is going through to get prepared for next season.
We were able to get a lot of work done over the last couple of months and saw improvement in so many different places, starting with the weight room. Just tremendous improvement with our guys and their strength and their speed.
But overall, the focus is on more than just football, and the staff wants their players to learn key values that'll push this program over the top.
I think there's a standard here at the University of Oklahoma, and there's a standard under Coach Venables, and it's up to us to defend the standard and understand the standard.
Now there's lots of excitement surrounding Coach Venables and this OU football program. And you can check them out Saturday, April 23rd at the spring game. Reporting live, Ben Thomas, OU Nightly.
After dominating the Hall of Fame Classic tourney, taking home 5 games and only allowing 1 run, the red-hot Sooner softball team is heading to Lexington to take on the Kentucky Wildcats for a top 10 matchup. The number 8 ranked Wildcats will host the number 1 seed in the nation, the Oklahoma Sooners, tonight for a midweek matchup. First pitch is at 6 o'clock. The OU women's basketball season ended with a gut-wrenching loss last night in the LNC as the 5th seed Notre Dame stomped the Sooners' Sweet 16 chances. The Fighting Irish got off to a quick start and didn't slow down once, thrashing the Sooners around 108-64. And when asked what they had to say to their coach after the game, senior guards Maddie Williams and Taylor Robertson got a bit emotional.
I'm just really grateful that Jenny came in and that we decided to stay and see what she was like. She came in and she was a really great experience. She was patient with us and she kept us around. And she didn't have to do that, so it's just been great.
She's really fun to play for. I know I'll be happy to be able to come back and play for it one more year.
After taking home the Big 12 Tourney Championship, the Oklahoma women's gymnastics team isn't done yet. The Lady Sooners are officially the number 1 overall seed and will host Arizona State in the Norman Regional. Oklahoma will fight for their 12th consecutive regional championship right here at home. Tyler, Olivia, nothing beats this time of the year. The women's tournament has been full of upsets, blowouts, and buzzer beaters.
Yeah, Brigg, you're absolutely right. This women's tournament has been incredible. And with Easter coming up, you might find something special in your Easter basket this year.
Find out how you can put your own spin on an Easter classic. We'll be right back.
I'm Emily Faith at the OU Nightly Update Desk with breaking news. Tishomingo High School is reporting that 6 students died late this afternoon in a car wreck. Oklahoma Highway Patrol troopers say that the car carrying students was hit by a semi-truck as it traveled along Highway 377. Officers say the car stopped at a stop sign and tried to make a U-turn when it was hit by the semi. Tishomingo High School says it has counselors on hand for students. School will be in session tomorrow, but will focus on emotional well-being.
Thanks, Emily. And with Easter under a month away, the popular treat Peeps is putting customization in your hands.
You will be able to choose the color, dip, and toppings for each Peep in your box. The Pennsylvania-based company will keep the customization available until supplies last at peepsandcompany.com.
And Colton Williams has one last look at our weather. Colton?
Yeah, winter tried to come back for this week, but we're going to kick it out the door as we head into this weekend. We've got 70s for Friday and Saturday, 80s by Sunday for Monday as well before the arrival of that next storm chance.
Thanks for watching OU Nightly, brought to you by the Gaylord College of Journalism and Mass Communication on the campus of the University of Oklahoma.
OU Nightly is live every weekday, so make sure to tune in again live tomorrow at 4:30. Good night.
Good